Hey everyone, George here and welcome back to the channel. So what's inside here is the Peninsula Mini 15 made by Waterbox. These guys were kind enough to send this to me to let me do an unboxing of it, and that's what we're going to be doing today. It's a really large box, and I don't believe that what's inside is as big as this. Typically these guys really pack these things really well for shipping so that they get to you safely. So I'm sure what we're going to find inside here is a bit smaller than this. Anyways, hang in there with me just for a minute and we'll be right back. Although Seachem is not an official sponsor of this channel, I do hope that you'll go out and try some of their amazing products today. So as you can see on the front of the box here, I took the big box out of here because it was just too awkward trying to get this thing out. This is very heavy. They use a sapphire glass on these things, which is basically low iron, but it's a very heavy 15 gallons. The glass is quite thick on these for the size of the tank. So anyways, as you can see on the front of this here is all of the specs on here and all that. We're not going to get into all of that specifically right now. We'll talk about it as we continue to unbox this thing. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to spin this thing around and get this in a position where I can get it out of this particular box here. Let's see what we got here. And again, like I said, these guys go out of their way to really do a good job of boxing these things up for you to make sure that they get to you safely. And just going to get rid of this stuff over here, making a bit of a mess over there, but you're not seeing it, so who cares, right? Anyways, like I said, these guys do a fantastic job of boxing these things up, and once they're inside here, they also shrink wrap all the way around after they put those corners in both the bottom and the top. And we're going to go ahead and break the edges off this here because I don't typically keep these boxes anyway. Really hard to get them out of here unless you do this because it's just really, really heavy. There's the tank. So set that down for a second. I'm going to get yet another box out of the way. Now, as you can see here, as I said, this is a Peninsula. This is going to be the specs on this thing. I'll get to that in a few minutes here, but basically let's just go over what we have here. And first of all, we're going to get this shrink wrap off here, which is another thing that's pretty standard. I think most places do shrink wrap, so this isn't really that unusual to see this kind of thing down. But like I said, they really do go out of their way to make sure that they have a good barrier between the box and the product, and then the box that this is in and the outer box. They have about 4 inches with that foam around it, so there's really not much that can happen to it. I'm just going to take some scissors and cut this down through here instead of trying to unwrap it like I was thinking about doing. And we'll just get all this off here. my computer down here. We don't have that flashing on me every second. Again, they have these little feet on the bottom of these as well, so like I said, they're wrapped really, really well. And I'm going to go ahead and take all the feet off these. This thing's getting smaller by the minute here. By the time you get all of this stuff off here, you basically, now you can see me. Anyway, so let's talk about this a little bit here and basically how it works. As I said, this is a low iron sapphire. I can't remember the exact term they use, but it's a sapphire glass which is low iron. So these are crystal clear. If you've seen any of my videos, my tanks are absolutely crystal clear to look through. And this is the same product, same glass. And man, it's really thick for a 15 gallon here. So what you have inside here is a filter media pack, as you can see here. And on this end over here, you got your activated carbon. And then you've got the balls that go in there. I'm probably going to replace this with ceramic and not use the plastic balls. That would be more geared towards marine or something of that nature. And then you have the bio sponge on the end down here. So you got 3 stages basically of filtration, and actually there is another one in here which is a water sock. I'm going to go ahead and just put this thing together while we're doing this. And there's a little protective coating on here that basically just peels off. They're never easy to peel these things off. I don't know why. Once you get them started, they're fine. But it's just getting them started that really can be kind of a hassle. But once you get them started, they do come off pretty easily, and like I said, they just peel off. Basically, as you can see here, just peeling off. And basically what this does is it sits down in here just a short distance. There's a little lip around the edge here, and this will sit down in there. That way the sock sits right clear, you know, right over where this grate is right here. And that gives you an opportunity to have the sock give you that first filtration. In other words, it's going to catch anything that comes through that little grate. You guys know what I mean by the grate. Every aquarium has them, either on this side or this side, or sometimes in the middle, depending on how big it is. This is only a 15 gallon, so this is built pretty much like their 20 gallons are. And anyways, we got that all peeled off. And so they have a filter sock here that's going to go inside of this right here. And we're going to go ahead and open this up. Again, we're going to get rid of that. I know I'm throwing things around, but not worried about anything in particular getting dirty in here. We're just going to take it all down and throw it all away, because I'm going to put this to use pretty fast anyway. So now their water socks are, I don't know how many people use a fiber water sock like this. This is almost like a felt. You really have to feel it to really understand what I mean by that. It is kind of like felt. So basically what this does is this goes down in here, gets pulled through here, snaps into place, and And basically it drops right in here. Typically it's going to drop in here and just set in here. And once you get your water in here, it will sit a lot nicer in the tank. Right now it's got to snap in there, and once it does, basically it just sits in the top right here around that little lip that I was telling you about, and that's really all there is to it. It's just sits right there. Anyways, that gives you an opportunity to have this flow come through here. That sock is going to catch any large pieces of debris, maybe a leaf or you know, a dead fish, God forbid, but some fish could fit through there, I guess. Anyways, this pack of filtration here, we're going to go ahead and put this in here, but we're really not going to set it up 100%. I'm just going to basically show you how this goes. So you always want to put this on the bottom here. Now, as I said, I am going to replace this. This comes with a little zipper on it, as you can see. So you can take these little balls out of here and replace them with ceramic, which is what I'm going to do. And that would go in the bottom of this middle chamber right here. Now, there are 3 chambers. There's one for the sock, one for your filtration, and one for your pump. So I'm going to set that down in there. And then the second thing you're going to do, and you want to make sure with your carbon, which is what this is, you want to make sure that you rinse this thing really, really well before you place it in here permanently. We're just going to set it in here just for purposes of demonstrating, and that just sits right down in here. So that is your second phase of your filtration. And then the third phase that you have, or fourth if you want to count the sock, are these 2 sponges right here. Now, I love sponges. I think that they have really become very practical to use and very, very good for filtration on just about every medium there is out there. I really, really enjoy using the sponge because you can wash them basically every once in a while and just replace them. You don't have to go out and buy new ones every time. Now, these are going to sit down in here, and this is going to be your third, or if you want, your fourth. These will fit right down in here. And so that's all stacked in there now. That's basically what you got here. Now, we're going to have the pump here. What that is. Kind of rubbery feeling. I'm not sure what that is. Anyways, as you can see here, there's a these are tube fittings here, and then there's a nozzle, and we're just going to open that up. Now, the tube that comes with this, we're going to get to that in just a second. And that is right here. Now, these are pre-cut to size. Now, if you want to do any adjustment on these, I'd recommend washing all of this stuff before you use it, because you don't know really what's on it. I mean, you know, I can feel just on the tube itself, it's got some powdery stuff on it. I don't know what that is really. But anyways, basically what you're going to do is you're going to fit this on here. And when you do that, I'm going to set that down for a second. We're going to pull the pump out of here. Now, their pumps, I wouldn't say they're fantastic as far as how quiet they are. This will always be set on minimum when you get them new. which is what this is. So you're going to have to adjust the flow on this thing to where you want it. It goes from minimum all the way up to high, and you know, you don't want to be blowing your fish all over the place, so you can adjust this however you want just by moving this little switch down at the bottom here. So anyways, basically, now there's something I do that a lot of people don't do, and that is take a small piece of rubber, and I've talked about this in other videos. I take a small piece of rubber, the same stuff that they put inside a tool bench, you know, to lay your tools on, you know, that rubber stuff that goes in the drawers. I take and I buy a sheet of that stuff and I keep it on hand because I wrap this bottom of this pump in there so that when I put it in the bottom here, it's not going to move around. Even though it has these sticky feet on here, you still can get some vibration, because what happens over time is these feet are not as sticky as they once were, and the reason for that is because they get a buildup of slime on them. All of a sudden they're not sticking anymore, and this thing starts to dance inside that chamber, either backwards and forwards or sideways, and then it starts to hit this glass right here or the glass right here, and when it does that, you start to get a vibration sound, and that can really be annoying. So basically what I do, and I'm not going to do it right now because we're not setting this up permanently, we're just setting this up for demonstration purposes. Let's get that out of here. Anyways, so what we would normally do, like I said, is have a piece of rubber matting that I set this on, and I have it setting in there, and it's folded up around the sides and the back just slightly, not enough to impede the flow. We don't want to do that, but basically it's going to be enough to where if this thing moves sideways or forwards and backwards, you know, that rubber is going to hit the wall of these things before anything else, and stop that vibration from happening. So we have a tube that goes on the top of this thing, basically like this, and you're going to have to line it up because this is going to set in here like this, or like this actually, excuse me. And you want to make sure that this thing is facing this little hole right here. You see my finger coming through this hole? You want to make sure that it is facing that hole so that when you do put this in here, you're going to drop it in, and it's going to be right at the height of this thing right here, the nozzle. So in other words, I can put the nozzle in here, I can tighten it down, and then I can move that nozzle however I want to. I can adjust it, you know, to be down or up. And that's tight right now. You don't want to over tighten these things. They don't have a gasket on them. There isn't a need for one. Some aquariums come with a gasket, but it just typically gets chewed up because people over tighten them. So you can move this thing around any way you want, just like even the cheap aquariums have that. But basically, I like to have the water flowing enough to where it's pointed a little bit upwards so that it's making ripples across the top of the tank. That way I know for certain that the product is pushing water on the surface here, the pump, and giving us some aeration. And that aeration is really important, especially if you're using higher temperatures in your tank. I typically run my tank 78 to 80 degrees. I don't have any problems with any of my fish being okay with that. I haven't lost any fish because of it. And 78 to 80 degrees is going to deplete a little bit of your oxygen. So instead of putting an aeration stone or whatever in here, just point your nozzle upwards a little bit so that you're making some ripples across the top of the tank, and that way you're getting some airflow across there. So that's really pretty much it. So basically at this point here, what you would be doing is setting this wherever you're going to set it, and you're going to put your substrate in here and you're going to start scaping. Now, as I said earlier, one of the things that I would do before you use this is I would wash it down thoroughly. What I would typically do is take some hot water, a glass of it, pour it in this inside of this tank, take a rag and just scrub all of this down just to make sure it's nice and clean. Same thing with the chambers. You know, I know I put this stuff in here, but it's not permanent. All this stuff needs to be rinsed off before you actually use it. So make sure that you are doing that, because I'm not saying there's anything on there that's going to harm your fish, but we don't want to take a chance on that. So basically what we want to do is just rinse it down really well, including this water sock here. You know, rinse it off as best you can, and again, you know, just get everything nice and clean before you're ready to use this thing. Now, this does not have any baffles or anything on it. These are smaller tanks that don't require that. I have a couple of Fiji cubes that have a baffle on them down in this lower area. You're not going to see that on these tanks because they don't need it. I'm sure as you get to their larger tanks, you may see something like that implemented, and but these are smaller tanks. Like I said, this is really just a 15-gallon, and what I'm really going to house in here is a pair of Epistos with a little bit of a cleanup crew and a ton of plants and wood and stuff like that is going to make this a beautiful tank. And it's going to be a species-only tank. I'm not going to throw any tetras in here with them or anything like that, because Epistos, you know, they're kind of timid when it comes to feeding. They're very slow. They pick at stuff off the bottom. They're not real good about running around the tank and grabbing stuff out of the water. They like to kind of pick things off the bottom. Now, I use fluval substrate, and do I have any here? I guess I don't. Thought I had a bag of fluval here, but I don't see it. Anyways, fluval substrate is what I use in these, and typically when I do that, I'm using it because with the Pistos and Corridoras that have the barbells on their mouths, or any kind of catfish that have barbells, it's not going to wear them down. You know, they recommend sand mostly for those kinds of things, but you know, I don't use sand. I don't like the looks of it. You know, some scapes are okay with that. It's just not my thing. But this fluval stratum that I use a lot does not wear their barbells down. Anyways, when we come back here, we're going to talk about this and have some final thoughts on it, and talk about what the future of this tank is going to be. I told you a little bit, we're going to get a little bit more into what the scape might be on this, and we'll do that when we come back in just a second here. So now that we've got the unboxing of this thing out of the way completely here, I'm going to go ahead and scape this, but we're going to do that in another video. I look forward to it. I look forward to showing you the scape that we're going to do in here. Now, we are going to have a black background here because this will be up against a wall, and I'm not sure which way it's going to go. I don't know if it's going to go this way or this direction, whichever one. So one of these sides will be darkened out depending on what I decide, but we're not going to do that today. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up for today. Thank you for joining me. I hope that you enjoyed this unboxing of this Waterbox Peninsula Mini 15. Looks like a great little system to me. It's not much different than the 20 gallons that I have already, but you know, it's a little smaller, a little different shape, and gives me a little more flexibility to do some different things in here, and gives the fish a little more running room here. Sometimes these cubes, you know, they don't offer up a lot of room for the fish to swim. These here, you know, you've got the length of it here that is a little bit better. So I'm hoping that I'm really going to enjoy this. It's something I've been waiting for a while. This is the smallest that they have in their peninsula size, And they do have a 25 as well. They have a Peninsula 25, which I don't know anything about it. I'm assuming it's very similar to this. It's just 25 gallons. That's the only difference between them. But either way, Waterbox is a great company. I have really enjoyed working with them. I've really enjoyed all of the tanks that I've gotten from these guys, because they really do offer up some beautiful tanks, and they stand behind their products. It's the one thing that I can say about these guys. I had a situation here a couple of months back where I got a Cube 20 in, which is something that's very common for me to use in my gallery, and there were some parts missing, and who knows why, there just were. They had those things out to me the next day, overnight mail, so that I didn't miss a beat on getting my scape done. So, you know, these guys stand by their products. I've never received one of these broken. I have received so many other companies that make these kinds of tanks. I've received so many of them broken. Never once with Waterbox have I ever received them broken. And as you can see, because of the packing that they do on these things, as I showed you earlier in the video, it is second to none. They really do a fantastic job of making sure that this product gets to you intact and ready to go. It's not something that you're going to be, you know, fighting with them about or whatever. If there's a problem, they'll make it good, but I can almost guarantee you, almost with 100% certainty, that whatever you purchase from them is going to get to you unbroken, and it's not going to be broke. And I can't say that about other people. As you know from other videos, I've actually shown you product that is shown up here broken. So anyways, on the next video we're going to be scaping this guy. It's going to be fun, and got a great design in mind for this. And like I said, we're going to put a couple of epistos in here, and we're going to try to do some breeding of those epistos. Haven't done that before. Thought I'd get myself a try at it and see what happens. But anyways, thank you for joining me today. Hit the comment section down there, down below. Leave your comments, and I will put a link for Waterbox in here as well. So if you are interested in something like this, they run about $199 for sapphire low iron glass, and as much as you get here, $199 goes a long ways. And they do have what they call a bread program, which lets you really finance that over anywhere from 3 months to 24 months, believe it or not, which basically comes down to about $9 a month or something like that. So you can really take advantage of some things like that. But anyway, I'll leave their link down below here in the comment sections. Hit that like button. Also, subscribe if you have not already subscribed to the channel. I really am getting a lot of new subscriptions, and I appreciate you guys out there for doing that. I'm trying to put out some good content here, and put some new videos together that I think you're going to like. And no different with this one here. If you don't like something that you've seen me do, or you disagree with something, please let me know down in the comment section. Also hit the bell up here, on this side here, and any new material that comes out, any new videos that we have, you're going to get notified, and it's going to give you a chance to view the video before anybody else. So hit that bell up there and get notifications. Anyways, thank you so much for joining me today, and we will see you on the next one.